Last June, I had the chance to ride the Erie Canal Trail, and I was just awestruck by the experience. When I daydream about touring, there's a reason why my mind keeps going back to this trail. It was really something special, and I believe it should be on your list of must-do riding adventures. First of all, this is a site of major historical significance. You can make the case that without the Erie Canal, we would not have a United States of America. That's no exaggeration. Both before and during the ride, I read Peter Bernstein's book, Wedding of the Waters, and it gave me a really unique on-the-trail perspective throughout the ride. There are a lot of historical sites along the way with plaques and displays, and I stopped a lot to read this stuff, but, well, I'm sort of a history nerd. Okay, look, buy the guidebook. I sort of threw my trip together at the last minute, which is a long story, and I didn't prepare as much as other trips. All the more reason I probably should have bought the guide. I was really fortunate to meet a dude named Tony who had just finished the trip and gave me his copy. If not the guidebook, you should definitely download some detailed maps to follow. You're going to need directions. I would not rely on just winging it or just following signs. More on that later. I cycled west to east, so I drove my car to Albany, parked at the Amtrak station, and took the train to Buffalo. I'm a big Amtrak fan. It's really easy and convenient. You know, Amtrak is just incredibly cool. My ticket was around $50, and an extra $20 gets your bike into a convenient rack in the actual train car. However, you're going to want to plan ahead because spaces are limited. The trail's around 360 or so miles, which I did in 7 days. So you can do the math, slightly more than 50 miles per day on average. I did mostly like 60-mile days with 2 shorter days thrown in. That came about mostly because just how the towns were mapped out. In hindsight, yeah, I could have done it in 6 days, but it was actually nice to have a more relaxed pace. I used the extra time to explore some of the small towns and talk more with people I met along the way. Most of the trail follows the canal itself, so whether the old original canal or the more modern update, both are pretty much still in use, which is amazing in itself. In a few spots, there's a decent amount of on-road travel. For example, the section between Clyde and Port Byron was almost all road. There's a decent berm for most of that, so it's not really a safety issue. The trail sections were a mix of paved trails, crushed gravel, and a little dirt thrown in for fun. Nothing super rugged. Overall, really well maintained and surprisingly clean. That really stood out to me. Even the canal, no trash. It was really nice to see something cared for in that way. The trail's mostly flat, with a few odd hills thrown in, especially around Schenectady, but in general, it was easy cycling for the most part. Now, signage was probably my biggest challenge. Sure, there's signs. You'll see 2 main ones, the Empire State Trail and the Erie Canalway Trail. Sometimes you'll see both, sometimes you'll see just one. And the Erie Canalway sign has a few varieties. The Empire State Trail is a much bigger network of over 700 miles, which as of today includes the Erie Canal and Hudson River trails. That's for another adventure. In less traveled areas, some of the signs are really faded, especially the arrows. That's where the guidebook really helped. I kept it in my front bag so I could get to it quickly and often. Some of the handmade signs were hilarious. A few of these, I think, may have been shortcuts, but they always led back to the main trail. And I found people along the way always willing to help and make suggestions for places to stop and take in the beauty. So look, it's mostly well marked. I got lost one day for about 10 miles, and yeah, that was not fun. You just got to pay close attention. When I would backtrack, the signs that I missed sort of made sense, but a few less faded signs would really have helped. If you've watched my other videos, you know I like to camp, but I didn't on this trip. I got advice from a well-meaning person in the state park office who said canal campsites weren't safe. I've encountered some of this in the past on other rides, so that was enough to dissuade me from camping on this trip. But honestly, I didn't see the issue firsthand, so I'd probably camp next time. There are numerous campsites right on the trail in scenic areas. There's a lot of little towns along the way, so you're never too far from civilization. Again, I stayed in cheap hotels and motels rather than camp. I had a hot shower every night, so I'm certainly not complaining. I've already mentioned the guide. It's $25. You can get it at ptny.org, which is also a website with a ton of great information. BikeErieCanal.com has a town-by-town detail of restaurants, bike shops, hotels, motels, convenience stores, you name it, a really well-done website. So if you got other questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer. This trail is definitely worth your consideration. It's really special, and I hope you get the chance to experience it.